You're watching Mugen TV RPG Haven. Experience a fantasy like no other.
Hey guys, it's MugenLord here, and I'm back again with some more Final Fantasy content. And today we're going to talk about Stranger's Paradise, Final Fantasy Origins. And before we dive into that, if you guys want to stay up to date with anything Final Fantasy related, just hit that subscribe button and hit the like button on the video if you enjoy this content. So let's dive right into it. Now, before we even get into what Stranger Paradise is, this game had pretty much had a lot of rumors surrounding it. This game is pretty much a cross between Final Fantasy and Dark Souls in terms of gameplay and the direction they wanted to go with this. Now, I remember around like 4 years ago, I've done a video talking about the rumors of a potential Final Fantasy game that pretty much focuses more on Dark Souls type of gameplay. And they talked about how it's going to have like a party mechanics, a class mechanic to it and everything. And a lot of people have written it off as a fake rumor or a fake leak, and I remember I had got a lot of backlash from a ton of different Final Fantasy group pages that I was a member of on Facebook, and they just didn't believe it. And here we are now. There's actually a game that the leak had pretty much said what it was going to be. Now, Team Ninja is helming this. They're known for their version of a Dark Souls game called Neo. And if you guys are fans of these type of games, then I have a lot of good news to say about this, because a beta was released for this, and I know I'm kind of late with talking about this, and I know people had plenty of time to get their hands on it. So we're gonna just dive right into it. I just want to give you my impressions, what I thought about my playthrough of playing Stranger's Paradise. Now, I believe this was the second beta. Yeah, this was the second beta of the game, where we had a lot more options, an extra character, extra levels, and everything. So let's just dive right into it. So pretty much, I'm gonna give you like I guess you say a quick summary of the lore of what we have about the game so far. And actually, there's actually a couple trailers that pretty much explain a little bit of everything. Now, the reason why it's called Final Fantasy Origins is because this game, it essentially takes place in the world of Final Fantasy 1, the very first Final Fantasy game. Now, the thing is, Final Fantasy, the original Final Fantasy game, especially the first game, you know, lore wasn't really a essential thing back then in the original games. It's more so the gameplay mechanics more than anything. And this game, they really wanted to, I guess you could say, expand on the world of Final Fantasy 1 and give us a bit of backstory. Now, from what I understand is you're the main character. Now, the main character goes by the name of Garland. Now, if you guys don't know who Garland is, Garland was pretty much the main antagonist in the first Final Fantasy game. So I'm thinking, since it's called Final Fantasy Origins, this is pretty much the origins of Garland, how Garland become who he is. And if you look at the previous trailers, they also have a couple of funny aspects of the trailers that people have been making memes of, because the main character Jack, he's been constantly saying, "I'm here to defeat chaos," and everybody's wondering what chaos is. So it seems like chaos, the person who bears chaos has the armor of Garland, which I always thought that Garland is Garland, but I guess Jack Garland is Garland himself, but the armor of chaos is the armor that Garland wears, I guess. And whoever defeats chaos, from what I gathered from playing the beta of the story, you pretty much, I guess, become chaos itself. You don the armor or something like that around that sort. So pretty much, you know, Jack get together with two other protagonists, and they go through this tower to be able to reach chaos. Now, eventually, there's some prophecy that talks about 4 warriors of light is going to get together to be able to, I guess you could say, save the world, and so forth and so on. So eventually, you end up beating chaos, and in chaos, you kind of find out is a woman, and then she joins your party, and you set off on this adventure to go after chaos yet again. So that's pretty much a summary of what the lore is. I know that it sounds kind of silly especially how especially Jack himself is just generic as hell, and there's a ton of memes you can find of this character. But that's pretty much the summary and the gist of what the story is. Now the thing is, as far as story is concerned in these type of games, I don't think story is going to be like the major foundation. It's going to be more so around the gameplay, which everyone loves about these roguelike type games. So I think that, you know, the story is going to be kind of wacky. So I'm just saying, so if you're a Final Fantasy fan and you love stories, I just say temper your expectations when it comes to story. I would say that don't expect anything philosophical or really, really deep that transcends, you know, storytelling or anything like that. So we're going to dive into the gameplay now, because I know that's what a lot of you guys really want to know. How does the game feel? How does it play? Now, I'm going to tell you, like I said before, I'm really not experienced in these kind of games. I'm not really that good at them. To me, they quite frustrating, but you know me, I love Final Fantasy, and I think the smartest thing that companies like Team Ninja or From Software, you know, when you have these roguelike type games and then you cross them over with other series or other franchises, especially like a franchise like Final Fantasy, you got my attention. The same thing with the Musou company that made the Dynasty Warriors games, where they take other franchises like Dragon Quest, and they also did Legend of Zelda with Hyrule Warriors. When they did that, that was a way to pull me in there. And the good thing about this is, when I heard the rumors of the crossover of a roguelike type game like Demon Souls, and then you take Final Fantasy, put it together, I said, yo, it's bound to have something that I would like about it. Because if you imagine taking some Final Fantasy gameplay mechanics, which we're going to get into right now, and you add it to a Demon Souls type game, I'm bound to like it in some shape or form, or some shape or fashion. So pretty much essentially, you start off with Jack. You have like a pretty much like a generic looking outfit. You know, you're really plain, you're really bland. And you start off with as I guess you could say like a warrior, or like a standard generic class at first. And of course, with the tutorial, it'll teach you how to play the game. You know, you can strafe left to the right. And like I said, when it comes to like Demon Souls type games, it's not about button mashing. It's a game about strategy, knowing your enemies' patterns, and knowing when to go in and attack and do what you have to do. Now, in the game, you also have where you have this thing called a soul burst, where if the enemy attack you, you can use your soul shield, and then you can absorb like the souls and the energies, and you can also absorb their abilities, and you can use those abilities and you can strike them back right back at them when you absorb them. They'll appear in your icon in the lower left hand corner, which I think is pretty cool. And then you have your standard attack, your light attack, and then you have your heavy attack as well. So just like your standard roguelike type games like Demon Souls, you also got to watch your stamina meter. You also got to watch the items that you use. You also got to watch out for your enemy attacks. If you guard the enemy attack just right, you can parry. You can also absorb their attacks, and you can take their attacks and shoot them back at them. So there's all kinds of different ways to maneuver around your enemies. You also got a lock-on sequence, which thank God I love the lock-on sequence. It allows me to be able to focus on one enemy at a time and everything, and also get a gauge of the area and everything. So pretty much after you get the controls, you just dive right into the game. You have and you have your two AI partners. You have one that's pretty much I guess you could say like a thief or an assassin. He has dual wielding daggers, and then you have your monk class, which from your other AI a partner, and you both enter the tower together. And then as you enter the tower, you go through the different levels, and you do everything like a typical roguelike type game. Now, what I do like is how simple the menu system is. This menu system is very simple. It's allowed you to easily navigate through the menu. You can attach different equipment pieces, and with this game, when you attach equipment, your character actually the equipment actually shows up and appears on your character's body and everything, so you can be able to see everything that you equip. And of course, just like these roguelike games, when you find equipment, you will find similar equipment that looks the same, but it has different stat boosts and buffs to them and everything. So it's always good to always stack up on the armor that you find, and you can take that armor, and depending on the class that you are, which we'll dive right into in a bit, you'll be able to pass that armor and gear on to your fellow AI partners. Now, the best part about this game, and I knew that this was going to be something when I heard the rumors, the best part about this gameplay is the class system. Any Final Fantasy game that has a class system in it, I tend to enjoy, and like I said, I tend to enjoy. The class system is what makes the Final Fantasy games feel so refreshed, because Square always finds some type of way to make the class system deep, rewarding, and it always gives you a fresh experience with multiple different playthroughs. And every time I talk to someone who plays Final Fantasy, and especially a Final Fantasy game that has a class system in it, everybody goes through the game much differently than the other person because of how they approach the class system. And this is no different. The class system, I think, is pretty fun. In the demo, you have Dragoon, because depending on what weapon you equip, that's what determines your class. You have your Paladin type class, where you have your sword and shield, and then you have your Dragoon with the lance, and of course you have your assassin with the daggers, and you have your gauntlets, like the gloves, which is like for monk. And then of course you have the big sword, which is more like the warrior class. And you're able to switch the classes on the fly, and which I think is pretty dope. I think it's pretty cool. So it gives you a whole host of variety of things you can do. Now, as far as your AI opponents, your AI partners are, you can't really switch to them in, like, when you go into a dungeon or anything like that. You can give them commands, but the good thing about it is you could be able to switch your classes on the fly wherever you please. Now, the good thing about it is, the fun part, I like the mage class, because the mage class has some unique mechanics to it. Like, for example, there's one area where we're sitting in the hallway and there's all these bombs everywhere and there's fire all over the grass. I can literally cast like water. Now you have to hit the dial, and this dial will show up, and you can be able to charge up the magic, your magic. So I use water. When I use water, the water actually affects the environment. I'm able to wash out the fire. And when I use fire in like grassy areas, I can actually burn the area. So really pay attention to your environment, because you can use the spells that can interact with the environment that can actually help you out in battle. But if you're not too careful, it can also impact you in a way. So you really have to pay attention when you cast certain spells. So you really have to keep that in mind, which I think is pretty dope. Now, what makes the game, for me, in my opinion, much more fun is when I played the multiplayer mode with my brothers Keel Lancer and DX Strike. I think that's the best part about this game. I always wanted to play a Souls-like game that's multiplayer. Now, people will say, hey, Demon Souls got multiplayer, but I don't like Demon Souls when it comes to their multiplayer, where it doesn't feel like a true multiplayer, where we actually exploring the world together and we going through the difficult challenges with the enemies and everything like that. No, this is an actual multiplayer game where I'm able to co-op with my brothers, and I found it so much fun. Now, I do have to remind you that to set the multiplayer up is kind of a pain in the ass, though, which you pretty much have to essentially do. You create a lobby. Once you create the lobby, you have to set a password, and then you have to pray to God that your friends or your family find the room. And then when you set up the lobby, you're playing as Jack. If you're the person that set up the lobby, you're always going to be playing as Jack. So you can't play as any other character but Jack, since it's your room, it's your lobby. And then when your other two partners jump in, then they would automatically host who's going to play which character depending on who gets into the lobby first. So far in the demo, you only have 4 characters. You have Jack, then you have the two other male protagonists, and then you have the female protagonist that joins your party. So you allow that, so your partners are able to play as those characters. Now, you have to actually assign these characters before your friends jump into your lobby in order to set everything up. Now, the other thing that I don't like about the multiplayer, and this is all like stuff that I believe that Square should be able to address. Another thing that I don't like is, whatever their equipment is, your AI partners' equipment is, once your friends jump into the game, that's the equipment that's going to stay on them throughout the session. Now, you can find different equipment, and once you equip the equipment on them, it doesn't change the look of their character at all until you end the session, and then you have to manually go in, change their equipment so the new equipment can appear on them, and then the next sessions you have with your friends, then they'll be able to see the new changes done to the characters that they're playing as, which I think is a hassle. I think it's stupid. I don't know why, you know, Square or Team Ninja just didn't figure out a way to where your friends can just equip what they can equip. It's your game. Equip what they can equip, and it actually appear on your friends' characters. I just don't understand what's the problem with that. But like I said before, I had a blast playing the multiplayer mode. We was discussing strategies. Like, I would go in as the warrior, then DX would go in as the rogue, and then my brother Keelancer would go in as Dragoon, and then I would switch sometime to the mage job so I could be able to cast spells, heal. I was able to protect, you know, my brothers and everything. And what we would do is we would constantly keep rerunning that certain area so we can level up our characters. Now, another thing that I did forget, there's like save points, or I would say like checkpoints, and if you use that checkpoint to recover, it revives all the enemies in that area once again, and then you have to fight through that area once again. So it's kind of like a give or take. Like, if you make it through without dying, then you cleared the area, you're allowed to freely roam and explore without worrying about the enemies jumping on you. But if you start to run low on potions and you really need to recover and you go back to that checkpoint, it revives that whole area all over again of enemies. So you also got to keep that in mind. But it's also a good way for you to level grind, and that's what we constantly did. We would go through a floor, we'll rerun the floor, we go back to the checkpoint, and then re-raise all the enemies again, and then we'll run through again. And then we notice each time we run through, we're getting not only just stronger, but we also getting better and better as far as coordinating our attacks, memorizing the enemies' patterns, and it was just a blast. We really enjoyed it, and Chaos was kind of easy after that. I'm not gonna lie, Chaos was kind of easy. Once we started leveling up too much, we was able to go through it, and then once we unlocked the female protagonist, we were able to choose her. Now the thing is, when you beat the first chapter or the first level, you are greeted with I guess you would say like a world map that you would be greeted to, and you're able to select different missions. Then what I do like about it, this world map kind of hint that there's going to be a lot of replayability and a lot of revisiting old levels, because when you go back to these old levels, new challenges also appear as well. So there's a lot of different challenges that you'll be able to do, harder missions. So it encourages you to keep going back. So I can see this being something that a lot of players who loves roguelike games is going to really enjoy that, and especially if you have friends, you and your friends can go through it. Now also, when you look at the menu, when you select your party members, it's also hinting that there's possible, you know, more possible characters in the future besides just the 4 characters, the 4 warriors alike. I believe there's going to be more characters that's going to join Jack, Garland, and the rest in the game, which I think is going to be pretty cool. So there'll be a ton of different possibilities and options as far as characters are concerned, especially when this game are definitely putting heavy emphasis on customization and everything like that. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. So the beta this second beta have also given us another mission. It gave us like this forest type level, and I thought it was also pretty cool too. So we was able to visit this new level, which is different for this version of the beta, and it was really enjoyable. We was able to experience a brand new fresh level together. The boss is kind of like a pain in the ass, but once we figured out how to get around the boss at level, that was pretty easy. But overall, the game was pretty cool. We was only given 2 levels, which was fine, especially for the beta, so they can get feedback on, you know, what they should do to be able to tweak the gameplay. But from what I've played with my brothers, I really enjoy it. I'm only going to be playing this game for the multiplayer. Like I said, I'm not really into, even though this is a fun game, I enjoy this game with my brothers. I love co-op experiences, especially a co-op RPG or action RPG. I enjoy those the most, and it seemed like I finally found a game that me and my brothers can enjoy together. Then the only bummer part about this is that we got to decide how we're going to do this. Like, I'm only going to play when they're playing multiplayer. So I guess when I'm only playing with my brothers, I guess I'll be playing as Jack. I do want to play as the chick. Like I said, I love my female characters. I want to play as the female protagonist. But since we're playing in the lobby, and if I start a lobby, I'm be playing as Jack. Now, I know my brother's Keel Lantern and DX Strike is going to be pretty much playing this game solo as well. So we will have like separate game files where they'll play solo, and then we have files where we'll play as a team together. But I do want to try the other characters as well when the game officially releases. But from what I've played so far, this game is very promising. The game is not a gorgeous looking game. You can tell that this game was last gen, so it's not like a next gen kind of game. I would say that as far as the visuals, it has like a bloom effect to it, which I guess the bloom effect is to hide some of the imperfections with the game. But I believe that as we get closer to the game they'll probably brush up the game just a bit more in terms of the graphics and everything. But overall, it was a fun experience. I enjoyed the beta, and I know I'm kind of late on this. I know plenty of people on other channels probably beat this game like to death with as far as giving their opinion what they think about the game. But overall, I enjoyed the game. I'm definitely be picking this game up with my brothers, and this is gonna be a game that we can live stream together, and hopefully you guys will be there when the game releases and when we live stream it. I think it's gonna be fun. So that pretty much wraps up this video. I definitely want to hear your thoughts. What do you think about Stranger Paradise Final Fantasy Origins? Have you played the beta? Do you think the game is fun? Did you enjoy it? Do you see potential in this? And do you think this could lead to other roguelike type games in the future that has a multiplayer type mechanic added to it? I definitely need your thoughts in the comment section below. If you like the video, hit the like button and hit the subscribe button for more Final Fantasy and just JRPG news in the future. This is MugenLord signing off. I'll see you Game Fiends later. Peace out.